Hello and welcome back to the Critically Clueless. I'm a monk, and today we are in Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous, and this is going to be my first build guide on the channel. Now what we're going to be doing is going to be doing a beginner's guide for people that are not really sure how to build one of these characters. They are very complicated, there's quite a lot to them. So hopefully it's going to help some people figure some stuff out. We're going to be doing some basic builds. We're going to be doing some more complicated builds as time goes on. But this is a classic build. This is going to be for a fighter, a very iconic character as we go into it, and hopefully we're going to be having some fun with it as well. So if this is what you're going to be into, if this is what you're after, then look nowhere else, guys, because Critically Clueless has you covered. Now, before I actually get into this video, I'd like to point out that there's no real right or wrong answer. There's definitely optimal builds and there's sub-optimal builds, and you can definitely just go in and do some classic role-playing as well. But this is my opinion. If you guys have a different opinion to what I've put, don't forget to pop it down in the comments where you think I've gone wrong and what you would do differently. Now, the Oldori Defender is best suited for players looking for a damage or a control role. Definitely a sound choice. And the Omega is the class you want to pick if eventually you want to be running as a Hell Knight. Remember, for that, you're also going to have a lawful alignment too, however. So keep that in mind if this is what you're going down. However, if that is, that's going to be a specific build that you are looking for, and I can do that later at a later date. Dragonair is a little bit of a more complicated choice. It's a very cool one, however, as you get to have some dragon-like abilities early on in the game. Mutation Warrior isn't a bad pick. They really rely on potions to boost themselves up a little bit. They do lose a little bit of armor skill, but they make up for this by getting an additional combat feat on top of the one that this class already gets. Now, the Tower Shield Specialist is probably the most iconic build that you can imagine, or at least one of them, and possibly a pick that you really want to go for if you're going to go for that classic high defense, hold the line kind of character. But today we are going to be going for the two-handed fighter. We've been trying to deal out massive amount of damage early on. Also good to point out that this is a two-handed fighter, as in two hands on a single weapon, like the Great Sword, for instance, not dual wielding. Now, when it comes to race, there are some obvious choices and there's some very good choices to go for. The Tiefling being one of those choices that people may not initially think about picking, but it's a very good option. What you're really looking for is the Tiefling heritage, many of them boosting key stats that we're going to be looking for our two-handed fighter. Strength, constitution, and dexterity being the three key stats that we're looking for, and the heritage under the Tiefling have a couple that actually boost two of these. I think every single heritage line boosts at least one of these key stats, so it's a very good one for you guys to think about. Of course, a fighter class wouldn't be a fighter class without mentioning the possibility of doing so with a human. Humans make great fighter classes. You get an extra feat and an extra skill. And it's just very iconic role. Doesn't really need to say anything else. It's a very good option. Probably top 3 when it comes to race. And a fighter class really wouldn't be a fighter class without at least mentioning the Orc or the Half Orc. With the Half Orc, you get a +2 bonus to an ability of your choice at character creation. This is absolutely great. You obviously get intimidating as well. You get keen senses and the ability to use Orc weapons, which is just really good for this class. Another great option for your fighter class would be the dwarf, especially if you're looking to make a tank type of character, a character that's going to slow down play and stop other enemies attacking the rest of your team and just be able to tank that damage. Slow and steady not being that great, but hardy, stability, defensive training, keen senses, and extra stats when it comes to dwarven weaponry is definitely in your favor. You'll also get a +2 to constitution and wisdom when it comes to the dwarf as well. And one of my favorite racial choices in the game is that of a Dampier, having a half vampire roaming about. I just love that for pure roleplay purposes, but also their heritage has a few options for pluses to points within strength. So if you're looking for instance, our character, two-handed, fighter, Dampiers work very well. But within this video, we are going to go for the Tefling. Now, next up, we're going to have a heritage perk or ability that we get to pick. And I really like Hunger Seed. With this, you get a +2 to strength and to wisdom. Yes, you get a -2 to charisma, but we don't really need that. But you also get to use invisibility once a day, which I really like. When it comes to background choices, it's really about thinking ahead and what you think is going to be most useful to you. There's definitely a couple of good options here. I'm not going to just say there's one option, one and done for this build. There's definitely a few different options depending on what weaponry you feel that your fighter should be using. Remember, we have got a two-handed fighter here. So personally, I think that going down the noble line and going down to a leader would be a very good option. Also should be noted, you get a very good great sword pretty early on in the game as well, which goes very well with this character. So noble and leader, very good options. Next up, we are on to the stats, and the most important stat for this character, this build, is going to be strength. I would take strength up rather a lot here, as much as maybe you're willing to do, as some sacrifices probably should be made in other stats areas. Like I said, strength is the most important skill because you're going to be wanting to do as much damage as possible. Dexterity is another decent stat to consider pumping points into when it comes to the fighter. If you want to do a different class and multi-class this character later in the game as well, high dexterity is going to help you do that. So I'd put a couple of points into dexterity as well. Constitution, of course, is where your health comes into this. The more constitution you have, the more hit points you have. As somebody that's going to be right up there on the front line, you're going to want a high constitution. For me and for what I'm doing, intelligence just isn't important. Obviously, intelligence can help you out an awful lot in this game, especially when it comes to skill points and stuff like that. But I'm going to take this down as I want the extra points. Intelligence is important, however, if you're going to be wanting to multi-class your character. Wisdom again is a stat that we're going to be wanting and needing to think about if we're going to be wanting to multi-class our character later on in the game when it comes to, say, level 13. And then after that, we're going to start multi-classing our character. You're going to want wisdom. However, for me and my build, I don't really need it. Again, charisma is a stat that you want to be looking at if it's possibly your main character and you're going to be wanting to pass some of them persuasion checks and stuff like that. But again, this is a stat that I really wouldn't be afraid of taking points out of to put back into strength, dexterity, or constitution. Again, any other spare points you may have, you may want to pop back into intelligence. But for this, what you're really going to be wanting to look at is strength and constitution, dexterity again, depending on what weapons you are picking. Next up, we have the skill points. Now, obviously, because of the intelligence that I picked in the last one, I only have one skill stat. If you want more skill stats, put more points into intelligence. What we're really going to be wanting to go for here, though, is athletics. This is going to help in so many different areas, and it's probably the key skill that you need to be putting points into. So think about that. After that, you can see whatever's green is gold and arcane world knowledge, law, or of course persuasion. Persuasion is very key on your main character. I would also personally recommend using skill devices as well. Use magical devices as well. But after that, it really is about you and how you think that you're going to be playing. Next up, we have the feats and the ability to pick a feat. There's some really good options here, so have a good look at how you plan on playing. Try and think ahead when it comes here. Choosing power attack really isn't a bad option at all, because you're going to be able to put out those big numbers when it comes to power attack. Again, weapon focus is a very good option as well, specifically looking at the type of weapon that you are using. We already picked something a little bit earlier when it comes to great swords. So again, maybe, mimicking that and choosing a great sword here to focus on would also be a good option. When it comes to deity, it really is personal preference. Think about the alignment. Think about what you're going to be wanting to do when it comes to your choices as you encounter them. You're going to want to be lawful. You're going to want to be good. You're going to want to be evil or chaotic. Pick something that suits your playstyle. Also, look at the favored weapons, because you can see what those gods like, what they don't like, that kind of thing. I think it's really good to mirror that. So of course we've gone for one that gives us extra bonuses towards great swords. And there you have it, guys. That is our basic beginner's guide to a two-handed fighter. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully you learned something, found it entertaining. This is only a rough guide. It can obviously be tweaked, and there's definitely better builds out there if you want to get, really specifically into it. But hopefully this gives you a slightly better idea of what to be putting points into, what to be focusing on when it comes to building your fighter. Again, if you have a better class, a better setup for the fighter, let us know down in the comments. I'll try and pin the post of the best comment to try and share those thoughts with anyone else watching this video. If you have enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like button and of course subscribe to the channel for more build guides. We also have a Discord. The link for that will be down in the description. And in the description, I also have a link for my upcoming novel. It's currently in pre-order on Ebook. It will also be released as a paperback, and that is Seven Broken and Bound. If you're looking for a way to support the channel, that is a great way to do so. But thank you for watching, guys. Hopefully you have enjoyed this video. Let me know your thoughts, and I will see you in the next video real soon. Until then, take it easy and happy gaming.